Mr. Watts, he's armed himself shots. Shots, watch it, tear gas. Live rounds. Also, I can see that.
Just the window! The man is a boxer, man. Watch your hand put in the boxer, man, to do that.
But since my cousin dead, no, you come on the East Coast.
You listen to me.
Right? No, you come on the East Coast.
You listen to me now.
You gotta listen to me too, man.
I am listening to
right?
you.
Now, I see you on the East Coast. The day when they get a protest of them, the next day, that's when you see one bigger heads come up for talk to my family. Right? And that's bad. If we didn't do a protest, we want to see nobody for justice. You see? I'm not holding back nothing. I'm not holding back nothing. I just need justice for my family.
I get visitors all of a sudden. All of a sudden, you all got visitors. This is Joker. Who is that Joker? That piece of plum. They know who the dealer with, you know.
Prolonged standoff and tear gas fired at Mocha residents on Thursday afternoon. The 7 remaining houses believed to be near an alternative East Bank Demerara road link were demolished. The villagers have maintained that their lands are ancestral lands and refuse to move.
These people need to give me justice. 20-something years now we family live over here, boss. Actually 30 years now. Where we going?
The government had said it had made offers of housing and land, but that these were refused. A number of the residents had been demanding proper compensation for the loss of lands that they usually plant crops and rear livestock.
We gotta go now, go watch. Where we asleep? The bed broke up. Everything broke up. What I sleep? Let the rain wet me up. It's right here, guys, the road.
Nightly News has learned that 5 of the 7 households have taken up the ministry's offer to move. And the Ministry of Housing said that they will continue to reach out to the other residents who were occupying the lands.
The papers they put up 5.5 million. It said you will be getting 20 million. And I told you also moving tonight until you finish building. So I said, well, I'm to me cattle. And he said that would be taken care of. I said I got to get a land to live right in Moko.
President Irfan Ali on Thursday said that sufficient was done to negotiate with all of the residents there. The president is quoted as saying, "If I attempt to be softer than I am soft on this Mocha issue, then I am telling people just ride me over." Unquote. Travis Chase, HGP Nightly News. Fired at Mocha residents on Thursday afternoon. The 7 remaining houses believed to be near an alternative East Bank Demerara road link were demolished. The villagers have maintained that their lands are ancestral lands and refuse to move.
These people need to give me justice. 20-something years now we family live over here, boss. Actually 30 years now. Where we going?
The government had said it had made offers of housing and land, but that these were refused. A number of the residents had been demanding proper compensation for the loss of lands that they usually plant crops and rear livestock.
We gotta go now, go watch. Where we asleep? The bed broke up. Everything broke up. What I sleep? Let the rain wet me up. It's right here, guys, the road.
Nightly News has learned that 5 of the 7 households have taken up the ministry's offer to move. And the Ministry of Housing said that they will continue to reach out to the other residents who were occupying the lands.
The papers they put up 5.5 million. It said you will be getting 20 million. And I told you also moving tonight until you finish building. So I said, well, I'm to me cattle. And he said that would be taken care of. I said I got to get a land to live right in Moko.
President Irfan Ali on Thursday said that sufficient was done to negotiate with all of the residents there. The president is quoted as saying, "If I attempt to be softer than I am soft on this Mocha issue, then I am telling people just ride me over." Unquote. Travis Chase, HGP Nightly.
If I attempt to be soft on this matter, people will ride me. Well, you all hear it there. History don't lie, you know. One of the wonderful things about social media is that it's there. Be tough on the citizens of your country to prove that you are tough. Demolish the homes of citizens to prove you are tough. Good evening and welcome to Politics 101 tonight. Apostle Nigel London is here, and we're going to get into the conversation almost immediately. Wherever you're joining us from, whether it's in Guyana, whether it's outside of Guyana, welcome to Politics 101. The imagery of Mocha. As I said on this program before, I am a believer in the courts. I can't imagine where we would be had it not been for the court in Guyana, in the Caribbean, in the United States, all over the world. I am a believer in the court. I also believe that when a justice puts on that gong, it's no longer the individual. It's the institution of the court. And so that's why I do not attack or criticize the individual officers of the court. When that person, whether it be Sister Roxanne or Sister Yonette, once they put that gong on, they cease to be Roxanne and Yonette. They become the institution of the court. And as I always say to you all on this program and whenever I get a chance to speak, you have a right to disagree with the court. But don't attack the officers of the court in their individual capacity. And the institution of the court, do not throw it out with the bathwater. Mocha, I think the court has made a grave human rights error. The court had a choice between choosing the force of government or the rights of citizens, the human rights of citizens. I haven't seen the written decision, but what is in the public domain shows that the court, rather than balancing the rights of government with the human rights of citizens, chose the right of government. I heard the Attorney General last night talked about government land. Government does not own any land. He then went on to say public land and state land, but he conflates government land, state land. Those lands are state lands, they are public lands. Public means that those lands belong to you, me, and all those people who were there. As a collective, they don't belong to them individually. But as a collective called the state of Guyana, the public of Guyana, those lands belong to us. It does not belong to the government. I want Anil Nandalal, he's a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer, but I will teach him law. He pretending that he doesn't know. Government does not own any land in Guyana or anywhere in the world. They're state lands, they're public lands. And if you say people are squatting, they're squatting on their own collective land. If someone is squatting on the land of another individual, that has its own dynamics. If you're squatting on public land, it has its own dynamics. You're not trespassing on another individual land. You're on public land. Like we say, the public road public road where you and I have a right to walk, public road, public lands. Good evening. I've been teaching for the last 2 nights, and tonight I want to take the back seat and let Apostle take the stage, because we're going to be talking about Moko. We're going to be talking about some other things. I noticed the Guyana Times under a column called Eyewitness, which I know is edited by Rafi Dev. I don't know whether you write all the columns, but I know you edit it. I rather suspect you write them. He said when David Hinds talks about lick bottom Africans, that's profanity. But when others talk about dildo in parliament, is wit. When the government minister and parliamentarians tell a woman in parliament about dildo, that is wit, W-I-T. When David Hinds talk about lick bottom Africans as profanity, how low and profane we can get. The profanity is in that reasoning. There's nothing more profane than that reasoning. Good evening to all of you and welcome to Politics 101. Let me bring in Apostle. Apostle London. Yahweh.
Greetings to you, my brother. And to those, of course, who are joining you on the various platforms. Greetings to all of you, and it's certainly a pleasure to be here with you all.
Let's get straight to the Moko situation, because I know you were in the forefront of bringing what predated Moko happened in Linden at various locations. I remember one of the locations, Amelia's Ward, and you brought that to our attention. They demolished people's homes, and then they moved to Moko. And we all saw what happened at Moko. And then the court weighed in on that case that was brought. I'm hearing all kinds of things, but the court has basically said that there shall be no compensation for the people at Moko whose livelihood were destroyed, whose homes were demolished. In effect, they're asked to pay $2 million in costs. Apostle, talk to me about what that old scenario says about our country, about human rights, about justice and fairness.
Thank you, Dr. Hinds. And I must forewarn those who are viewing that the views here, of course, are mine. You don't have to agree with me. However, they'll be most honest, candid, and straightforward. I am of the view that certain lands or plots of lands should never be classified as being owned by the public if there is an attachment of history to it, especially that of ancestry. The Africans have been suffering, tormented, tortured, enslaved, brutalized for centuries. And if there's any plot of land, therefore, that falls within the ambit or the realm or the parameters of being ancestral in nature, then it's my view that the public should not have rights to it or ownership of it in the context in which the people want to demonstrate, or many other groups may be. The Constitution itself needs to be adjusted, I believe, to protect ancestral land indeed. We should not give any state entity power over land that belonged to our foreparents. That's just my view. No court, nobody, in the context of saying, well, if the state wants to use it or so, then it should be released from the hands of those who would have been born through the loins of their ancestors and rightfully inheritors of those lands. Something is wrong with that equation, because the Africans who have ancestral land must have that ancestry and that legacy and the history protected, not abused. So it depends on the nature of an administration. They can decide that they want to use the land, as it was the case when they claimed it from Mako, which is an absolute lie. It wasn't used for any highway whatsoever, or any bypass road. If they arrive and say they want to use this land, then why should an African descendant or any descendant be made to relinquish that right and lose the power of attaching themselves to history? So the Mako situation is one with which I have a very, very serious issue. And indigenous lands, or whatever you want, any land, I say again, especially that, because of the history of the Africans, we should not allow people to just come and bulldoze, take away, strip us of this, and then it goes into the hand of someone who may not have a genealogical or biological or historical attachment to that said plot of land. It should not be the case. So there should be a clarion call for the land of African descendants and natives to be protected by law, and this should never happen. How could you protect Iroquois rainforest, but you can't protect people of African descent and in some cases of Amerindian descent? Something is wrong with that. They're protected areas in this country, and I would like to lobby for this to be on the table here. This is my view, that lands that have the history, the bloodshed, the torment, the torture, the raping of our mothers and fathers in reference to history should be protected more than trees, more than rivers, more than lakes, more than creeks, because they have attached to them a history that we continue to apparently live under certain people. Further, Dr. Hinds, when I examine what has happened in reference to our legal system, it is very painful to know that individuals who were trying their best to survive and to live as best as they can were taken to an environment where they have no economic power to fight. And they're put at the mercy of those who maybe want to function as attorneys. They may call it pro bono, for free, gratis, whatever terminology is used. You just want to help the people out. And that assistance goes as far as the attorneys are willing to extend themselves. We should consider the state of people when it's looked upon by entities like the United Nations, who would have agreed that the African descendants have suffered so much that they're now committing 20 years, essentially, 10 and then another 10, another decade, to focus on the plight of the Africans. And how unfortunate is it that when they're focusing on the plight of the African and the development of the African and the advancement of Africans, a legal system, not a person here, as you rightly said, a legal system in our country has proven that the African must lose yet again. This is unfortunate. It is my reasoning that someone in the system should examine whether the land is being used for the said purpose. We cannot bypass that. If the claim is that the land would have been, or the residents would have been in the path of the highway, and they're not in the path of the highway because the highway is not run through there, then there should not be an argument to say that you were on land that you should not have been. That's my view. Let's examine whether the government, as they call it, the administration told the truth. They did not tell the truth. And I further say, because I can bring to people's remembrance what I spoke to in reference to my father, Errol London. There was a case in a place called Spiteland in Linden, where some Armenian descendants lived, and they were intending to cut a road, the bauxite company. And a man's house was positioned directly in the path of the road, Doctor. It's not somewhere in some corner somewhere, directly in the path. And my father had some degree of authority in reference to what could have happened. And my father said to them, those who were in decision making, do not move the man's house, move the road. Because the family, when the man began to tell them about the history and what's the attachment he has to this house, my father said to them, you can move the road. You can simply make a corner, a bend, something. You don't have to move to just disgrace a person, dehumanize a person to this extent. So there is evidence of decisions being taken, and to be seen at some points across the world, where they build highways around one single house in Japan, because the person said, I'm not moving from here. And they respected that decision, and they made the highway to split like Maikoni, the big tree in the road, and went around the person's house. this decision taken here against the African descendants in Mocha is painful and is quite unfortunate, to say the least. I think that you're muted.
Apostle Nigel London, bringing an added dimension to this issue. We talked about state lands, public lands. Take government out. Government don't own land.
No.
Ancestral land. And that's a very, very important dimension, because the law makes allowance for ancestral land. Our Amerindian brothers and sisters, rightly so, they have ancestral land. It's not public land, it's Amerindian ancestral lands. And so, therefore, our law and our constitution make allowances for ancestral land. So Apostle is correct to bring that dimension into play. I heard the Attorney General, who I don't listen to very often, but I made sure I listened to him as I prepare for this program. He says that the law does not make allowance for ancestral land. And I wanted to punch my way through that TV to say, Anil, you're a damn liar, because you know very well that the Amerindian Act makes allowance for ancestral land. There is a thing they use in law, which all of you all know, precedence.
Correct.
And so, therefore, the court may have fallen short. I want us to, Apostle, to move to the issue of human rights, because I think it's a very important issue, and I know it's an issue that you have paid a lot of attention to. And let's look at this, and then we will talk on the other side.
This was a scene at KNP Mocha Arcade today as the Ministry of Housing, accompanied by members of the Riot Squad of the Guyana Police Force, moved to demolish the structures occupied by squatters who failed to accept the compensation offered by the government. The Housing Ministry said the land on which the persons are on form part of the construction of the Eccles to Great Diamond Highway. Shots were fired by the police and persons were arrested, while angry residents threw bricks, bottles, and flammable objects at the police. At one point, the excavator caught fire.
What did they do? Like, me want to talk no more, man. It does everything damaged. Them telling me for coming one by one. Them saying that we house ward. In these hard times, where you can pay 6 million or 5 million or 2 million for these things they know. Then what's expensive? Nails expensive. Board expensive. Everything gone high. We bed broke up. Everything broke up. What I sleep. I need funny. Let the rain wet me up. If I take out the road. I'm a homeless girl now. Now I'm a homeless girl.
And this is totally wrong with the people doing. This is totally wrong. These people need to give me justice. 20-something years now we family live over here, boss. Actually 30 years now. Where we going?
The area was surrounded by the police and housing officials who were executing the exercise. They first started by removing the bridge and then this house and business place. The owner was standing her ground against the demolition when she was arrested and dragged through the mud by the police. For several minutes, she and the police wrestled until she decided to go. Moments later, her house came crashing down. The operator did not stop there. He destroyed all the beverages and other items the woman had for sale. Some were covered by the debris. By this time, some squatters started to remove their household, livestock, and other items. Opposition leader Orby Norton arrived on the scene and tried to reason with the police and the housing officials.
Why can't they meet in a civilized way?
Things got heated as the exercise continued, with residents pelting the police, who returned fire. Opposition MP Roysdale Ford, Coretta MacDonald, and other MPs were on hand to see the destruction.
What we see happening here is transgression to the max, oppression to the max. And I'm saying people will have to stand up at some point for their rights, because we cannot allow history to keep repeating itself.
There's more than just a possibility. I believe that there's a high probability that legal proceedings will have to be instituted by the people who would have been suffering, by the families who have been suffering this sort of demolition and complete destruction to the property. And it's just simply beyond that level. I believe that serious questions have been raised and we will examine them. We're in the process of gathering a number of pieces of information and documents that go towards the legal ownership of this land as to who actually owns it, whether this is in fact land for which the government, even if they want to build a road, it should be subject to the Constitution, should be subject to the payment of compensation to persons who are the owners of this land. So we are currently in the process of examining those issues, and we will definitely be instituting proceedings if it is found that it is necessary to do so. But in my view, having regard to what I've seen here, what I've learned over the last couple of days, this is a serious case that will require some degree of legal representation on the part of these people who suffered and complete destruction to their livelihood. But this is a complete demolition to their lives. I believe it is extremely insensitive. When it occurred in Linden, when it occurs in other parts of the country, it is against the rights of the people, not because that they're squatters in the eyes of the government, not because they can't produce a title to property. This is completely against the law. They have no right to demolish homes, especially to demolish homes in the manner in which they're doing. This reminds us of the situation in apartheid South Africa, the demolition of homes and communities. And the government here would have signed all sorts of treaties. I don't know whether they don't read them, whether they don't pay attention to them in terms of the rights of people and the rights of persons to live, even in homes that are not necessarily on legal land owned by them.
This is what is left of the houses when the exercise was completed, as persons contemplate their next move and start all over again. Many of those whose houses were demolished lived on the land between 16 to 30 years.
Apostle, I have no question for you. It's open to you. Your comments, your thoughts.
African descendants in Mocha-Arcadia have been failed miserably in reference to the response to this situation by the fellow Africans, and also the memory of our forefathers would have been trampled upon. It's unfortunate that we are or have become an extremely docile people to some extent, for whatever reason. And when I examine the general ethnic composition of those who were present, the police officers, the residents, the political leaders, they're all African descendants, essentially. Most of them were. The vast majority would have been. And look at how various facets of the state would have merged in one location to fail a people. That situation to this day, when I see it, it ignites within me a fire and rage that I try not to have remain in my memory. Because unlike many individuals, I'm not inclined to being nice when I see such things being done to individuals. It is not my nature to do so. This goes so deep into understanding what human rights speak to in reference to the United Nations Declaration in reference to on human rights. It is not just the right to exist peacefully and do whatever the state tells you to do. It also includes the right to live and enjoy life, being respected, even based on one's ethnic history. So if a people would have been targeted for years and for centuries for being tortured and targeted for rape and as I said again, dehumanization, those people deserve the right to have certain privileges that others who have not had experience, they wouldn't have. They don't have entitlement to that. And when the notion is given that people are squatters on lands that belong to their ancestors, I have an issue with that terminology. I cannot squat on what my father owned. It is my own. The African man would have purchased, and let me set the record straight. And people feel to call me racist if you want. It happens all the time when I speak on certain programs in mine. Most villages in this nation, in Guyana, would have been purchased by Africans. That's a fact. We have a record to show we purchased, based on what we went through, we purchased most villages. On the East Coast, in Essequibo, and so many places, there's some, Granger, I think, had a commission would have been assembled and appointed to deal with this. And it's been proven even diamond was purchased by African descendants. So we have got a rich history in terms of doing business to get land. How do you then step into this fray to say, well, you're squatting on something that your foreparents bought? I don't subscribe to that nonsense. And there is no state arm that should be allowed to step on sacred land. Sacred land, I'm calling it now. And tell anybody that you're squatting here, you have to remove because you want to do something called development. You cannot develop my community if you destroy my history. Let me repeat that to you. You cannot develop my community if you destroy my history. And the land that I own is a part of my history. If you take the land away from me, then you stripped a part of my history and send me somewhere else where I don't belong to. This is unconscionable. And so there should have been an aggressive response, not talk, because the excavator operator wasn't talking. There has to be at some point in our history in Guyana a response that equals or supersedes that which is presented to people. There has to be. For anyone to go into an Armenian village, you have to encounter the Tushao. An individual has to give you the right to enter that community. How could it be that when you have to enter a historically African village, you just walk in? You don't have to talk to anybody. And as you would have done in Queen Bacchus' case, Irfan asked me, who's that joke in reference to you as the leader of a village? It shows you the kind of disrespect these people have for African history and leadership. Dr. Hinds, there should have been a response that our forefathers can say, wherever they're looking from, that they're proud that their work for freedom from the hand of colonizers and murderers did not go to waste. There should have been a response. There should have been a response that sends a message to everyone that you're not allowed to walk into anyone's community, especially that which has African history attached to it, Armenian history, East Indian history, whatever it is, and just wipe that away because you want to send some message to somebody. I am saddened, I am disheartened, and I'm most upset that the response to Mocha was talk. It should not have been that, because the excavator wasn't talking. The policemen weren't essentially talking when they were firing tear gas at people. And I would that there would be some degree, at some point, of fortitude in our people to stand against what is obviously an atrocity. Further, I would say that this PPP administration should be taken to every court internationally to show that what they've done to people is a crime against humanity. Because to destroy someone's business is one thing, but to then go to the extent whereby you take a machine to crush the products that are being sold tells me that the intention was not to just destroy a building. It was to destroy someone's ability to live and to earn and to survive without having made to depend on what is called the state or the government. It's just a disgrace and a misfortune for our people.
Apostle London, I feel the same way. Every time I look at that, I'm enraged.
Mr. Watts, he's armed himself. Shots. Shots. Watch it. Tear gas. Live rounds. Also, I can see that.
Just for Quindon! The man is a boxer, man. Why can't put in the boxer, man, to do that?
But since Mike wasn't there, no, you come on the East Coast.
You listen to me.
Right? No, you come on the East Coast.
You listen to me now.
You gotta listen to me too, man.
I am listening to you.
Now, I see you on the East Coast. The day when they get a protest of them, the next day, that's when you see one bigger heads come up to talk to my family. Right? And that's bad. If we didn't do a protest, we want to see nobody for justice. You see? I'm not holding back nothing. I'm not holding back nothing. I just need justice for my family.
I get visitors all of a sudden. All of a sudden, you all have visitors.
This is Joker. Who is that Joker? That piece of plum. They know who to deal with, you know.
Apostle, the issue of selective Africans, as you have pointed out here tonight and before, doing the bidding of others to inflict pain on their own people and their own communities. I remember a few months ago on this program, you used the term whoredom, which I had forgotten. But this issue, look at the people operating the excavator. Look at the people pelting tear gas, shooting at their own people, Africans. It's a long issue that we've had to deal with. It goes right back to the plantation, and it comes through to the present. Recently, the spirit turned in me and said it was time to dramatize this in the most dramatic way. And the rest is history. I want your thoughts on this issue of people of African descent going to join a party that has not been kind, has not been humane, as we can see in the clips we are playing tonight. And then offering your service or allowing yourself to be offered in service of buying the votes of your people, shooting, killing them, calling them all kinds of names, calling them lazy. They don't work hard. This is a long, long phenomenon that we have had to deal with in the African Guyanese community. And we are coming face to face. We have come face to face with it in a real way over the last 4 years. Your thoughts?
The weakness or strength of a man is seen in his response to what is perceived as an insurmountable task. And some of us as men would prefer to cower, kowtow, turn away from that which we are associated with, to connect ourselves to that which appears to be stronger. Most unfortunate is when that turning away from our people or from our situation is triggered by or really encouraged by the desire for acquisition of things, for some monetary gain. I have used the terminology for years that there's some people I describe as butt lickers. Why do I say that? Because it came from the Calypsonian and Dr. Hinds'Sight has spoken to as well. But for me, there's no other term for me to use to describe an individual or a group of individuals who, just for the sake of an economic opportunity, they would look at the plight of a people and ignore it. Even more catastrophic is the fact that someone may say that they could name 10 or 15 people, if so many, or 40 or 100 people, out of 200,000-300,000 people who have benefited from the PPP in this case. And that therefore engenders a desire to say, well, they are not racist in nature. They're very kind to African descendants because there are 200 people out of 200,000 who've benefited economically from this group of people. I dare say to any such individual, can you name, I always ask the question, for 4 years I've been asking the question, can you name 5 African descendants who can be classified or categorized in the same block as Jagdeo, Irfan Ali, maybe Nandalal, in reference to the economic wealth that they would have acquired after, by the way, they got into political office? No, you can't. In the oil and gas sector, can you name 5 African descendants who are top tier in reference to local content? No. The only African descendant who had a license to operate in reference to diesel and fuel, his license would have been stripped from him, Mr. Best. Because the obvious response to Africans gaining wealth in this nation is that you have a cap, a ceiling. And so if we're going to utilize the people's money, the PPP would do that, to empower a few African descendants to say that we're showing you that we have intentions of making life better for Africans, while others are treated as though they are less than. That, for me, will always be an issue to which I will speak with greatest passion, because the development of a people should not be found in the minority of that said group in reference to just a minuscule, just a minor group, a very small, tiny group having some benefits because of their expressed loyalty to oppressors. But let me take a moment here, please, Dr. Hinds.
Yes.
When an individual must openly express their commitment to an oppressor in order to benefit from that said oppressor, then that individual is simply being used against his or her own people. We see it in London with the cash grant, this $100,000, I call it madness that's going on, where the PPP has within a tent mainly PPP operatives in a region where they're mainly overwhelmingly African descendants. The operatives are in the tent, controlling this scenario for the greater part. Why do you do that again? Because you take a few to show that we have power over the masses. This behavior has to be condemned. I'm not saying that I have, please let me make this clear to all. We normally say that someone is free to support any party they choose to. No problem with that. But I also have the right to express how I feel about one who supports an oppressive group of people. I have that right. I would not take the right away from any individual who seeks to support a group. But my conviction becomes then, whatever you support that oppresses me or a people, then falls squarely on your shoulders to say that you are also one of those who seek to do this to me. Because I don't expect anyone to support something that they're against. It doesn't make any sense. It's almost an oxymoronic. So if we're going to say that you are free to support something, then in that action of supporting it, if it includes oppressing your people or oppressing me, I have a right to say then that you are numbered among those who do this to me. And African descendants have, to some extent, gotten in many cases so weak that they would rather benefit economically rather than stand for what they know to be the true conviction within their hearts that the descendants of Africans, and this is not just about Guyana alone, I remind us again, the United Nations have acknowledged that the African descendants have suffered immensely, so much so that they will commit 20 years to us being developed as a people. Now, how could it be said that the United Nations, based on their information, based on their research, they conclude that the Africans have suffered beyond that of many other people? But in Guyana, an African can say, well, I don't think that's the case. What are we going to use to measure this? Political leaders who may fail their people? Are we going to use 20 out of 20,000 people to say 20 benefited to 20,000 or 18,000 are wrong? How are we going to use this formula to determine that the Africans in Guyana are not being treated in the manner that the United Nations said we are? It cannot be that when a few are selected, more so to just encourage others to choose the PPP over another group. And that speaks to developing the African? No, because the development of the African is not about the PPP or the PNC. It's about how do you cause us to arise out of a pit of history in which we were oppressed, we were robbed, we were cheated, and to this day, we're being treated as if, for the greater part, we do not deserve to have what is rightfully ours. That equation has to be adjusted to demonstrate the fact that it's not about a political movement. It's about people's right to have what is rightfully theirs. And I don't see that happening if anyone decides that they're going to support a group of people who are not taking the time to focus on the African descendant in a manner that international bodies said it should happen.
You know, Apostle, I belong to a party other than the African Party. If you say the African Party is the PNC, I do not belong to the PNC. I've never belonged to the PNC. But as an African, I belong to another party. And I do not, because I belong to another party, condemn Black people, call Black people names, go into Black communities and try to buy them. I belong to a party other than the party that most Africans vote for, and that is my right. But having gone to another party, I still embrace my Africanness. I do not condemn Africans. I critique Africans, but I do not call Africans lazy. I would not go and buy an African vote for my party. I just can't. Why can't you go to hell and join your party and still keep your African dignity intact? You know, a prominent Guyanese called me this morning to express solidarity. Well, no, I called the person back because they've been trying to get to me. And we were talking. And that person asked me the question, Doc, you think something wrong with we? The Indians who come over to the PNC don't sell their Indianness, they don't sell their Hinduness, they don't. When they call, another official was telling me that when he was in charge of a government official during a government institution during the coalition time, coalition Indian members, 9 out of 10 times they call to make representation for their Indian community.
Correct.
No, I am not saying that black people should live by Indian people standards. I'm just making a comparative, as the person was telling me this morning, asking me, Doc, why our people feel that when they go over to the PPP, they have to become more anti-African than the PPP members, the PPP Indo-Guyanese leaders. Talk to me.
Permit me, Dr. Hinds. And
yes,
I want to, this is the first place I will share this information because it's pertinent and it's valuable to what the discussion is. I'm currently out of Guyana. I traveled on the same flight with Aria Ali. I don't call her First Lady. It's not like First Lady in my book where anybody's concerned. I traveled with the president, with Ali's wife. Let me share this with the public, and I expect them to try to respond to me, but they can't. In any truthful or honest way. I saw she was almost petrified when she noticed that I was sitting in first class in the same row, unfortunately so as she was. This is what I want the Guyanese public to hear me. She was with 2 other East Indian ladies. The 3 of them sat in the same row as I did in first class on the plane. They all had carry-on bags. I saw an African female who was with them, and she had to lift their carry-on bags, all 3 bags, to put it into the overhead compartment and head to economy. Ali's wife is headed to India as far as I was informed. You know where she's going? She's going to India, where Modi came here. Well, I'm not in Guyana now. Modi came to Guyana and said that the Indians have arisen from this indentureship to essentially owning the state economically. Now she's going to India with an African descendant who's a servant. This message is absolutely clear to me. Don't tell me that you cannot find one Indian like yourself to go to India with you, to carry your bags. This is the first place I share this on because it's pertinent to this discussion. So you are either going to be confined to being a servant, or you're going to be confined to being one who attacks your own people. And that's how you gain a footing in the group to be accepted. I was so livid, and I think she could see how angry I was, because she knows me well enough. They know me well enough. And the optics matter. So if in today's society we're going to choose to have Africans in the PPP, I've said it, Dr. Hinds, they gain, many of them gain acceptance when they cuss me out to cuss you out. That's your passport to get in. You cuss London, or you cuss Hinds, you cuss whoever else it is, and you call us all kinds of names, and then they say, okay, then you're one of us, because you are willing to castigate your own. But you don't hear them doing that to each other on the other side. And that's important. And I would like to announce to Irfan Ali and to anyone in the office of the president, you call it, or first lady, as you want to classify these people, her office, be mindful of these things, because you know better. If Modi came here and Modi said that he saw how the Indians have arisen to dominate our society, I will say this publicly again. I have a problem when members of the PNC or APNU FC go to smile with Jagdeo because Modi is here. Modi is not a god. So Jagdeo can be evil yesterday, but because Modi come today, he's a nice boy, we can all shake hands. Modi is not qualified to speak to the plight of anyone in Guyana, most of the African descendants, to classify us as being less than a people who have not fairly arisen to a particular state financially. And this may be an uncomfortable moment for most, but I don't play when it comes to certain things. And in my history lies too much pain for me to say that because people are friends of mine, I cannot tell the truth to this situation. The optics, the presentation of the African is scarred in Guyana, and it has to be corrected by Africans. Nobody can fix this for me. We have to fix how we appear to people. The Hebrew man, the African man, has to address his situation and defend his historical integrity. And I am happy that there are few of us who remain in this land who are prepared to do the same. So if you're going to tell me that there's now in the Guyana office of the president or first lady office, this same system where you take a little African girl to India to tote your bags and lift your bag, take it down. There were not 3 first ladies on the plane. It was 1, as they want to classify her to be. And you send a little black girl into economy.
Wow.
Aria, I know your pain when you saw me sitting in first class.
Wow.
Because apparently I wasn't supposed to be there.
My brother, you know, I told the story last night that my first appointment after I finished my PhD was at an all-white university in California. And they'd instituted an arrangement with Howard University from where I graduated that they could send one of the recent graduates to that university, and that they will send one of their recent graduates to Howard so that we can get the experience of working in an environment. And I was chosen to go as one of the recent graduates. And the professor who recommended me, she called me into her office and told me she had recommended me. And I said, thank you. And she looked me in the eye and said, do you want to know why I recommended you? And I said, yes, professor. And she said, I recommended you because I know you're not going to go there and take shit from white people.
Wow.
And you're not going to go there and make black people look small.
Wow.
And I tell that story. I tell that story because we are painfully conscious that under this thing that I am doing my job, some of our people engage in the worst crime against ourselves. There are young women who are working at the Chronicle and DPI that they send to our press conferences, young black women. You don't see them sending Indian girls, young black girls to come and to ask us stupid questions, embarrassing questions, to, as we say in the community, take lives and pass big people. And some of those young girls do it. And I am saying that if my child, if anybody asks her to do something like that, I will tell her, no, you can't do it. And if they knock her off, as an adult, I will mind she.
Correct.
I will not permit my child to be sent by the government to go and embarrass herself and her race. And if she said, it's my job, I will say, left the job, wherever they pay you, I would pay you that and more. I would mind you because you're my child. I think black people got to get busy and understanding the process that is taking place in our very eyes. That story you told there, speaks a zillion about what is happening in our country. And some bright black men and women are walking into that. Do you think you can go and sit with them there and not bear collective responsibility and individual responsibility for what they do to your own people? Maybe some people think they can do it.
No.
Talk to me, my brother.
They're all responsible. And the reason why they are responsible because many of them can speak to me off air or off camera and in private to say that they know that the African man is being treated unjustly. They know that. They know that in those circles, they are treated unjustly. And they're treated as though they do not belong there. They're just being tolerated in that environment. They know that. They're also aware that they have got to subject themselves to a caste system in which a few of the Indian Guyanese men believe that they have dominion over all Guyanese people of all ethnic groupings. They have to subject themselves to that, and they have to call one man boss man and chief and all kinds of nonsense, because that's how you earn the right to sit at the table to have some crumbs from it. But when the African man, the Hebrew man, the Indian man, whoever you are, when you understand humanity, propriety, and principle, you would never do that. Because if I see an Indian man being treated as though he's less than in Guyana, I will speak just as passionately about it. Because we as Guyanese must believe it in our hearts that we deserve to have lives and livelihoods that speak to us in a manner we're not just trying to survive under some dogmatic crazy people. So anyone who's going to sit at the table with these individuals and say within themselves that I'm aware of how I'm being treated, I'm aware of how my people are being treated, but at the end of the day, I can call myself a millionaire and they can't. That is whoredom. I don't mind what gender you are. It is disgraceful and it's nothing but whoredom, because money drives the decision. And it doesn't matter how you're treated, you're prepared to just accept what they do to you. I cannot do that, Dr. Hayes. I told my children all the time. I tell them, you do not accept disrespect from anybody, especially in the line of who you are spiritually and who you are as an African or Hebrew person. You can't accept that. Don't allow them to do it to you. They don't talk down to me. Maybe today's my day to share with you some of my experiences, because the Chinese I deal with y'all too. One of them give me one price for bottled water one night with the 5 gallon with the bottle. $2,300 they said. I said, no problem. My kid went back the other day. They said $2,600. I said, how was it yesterday? He told me 23, now it's 26. This fella in my country walked away when I was in Guyana the other day. He walked away. So I was there standing waiting for the man to come back to give me the bottle. He never came. 5 minutes past, I went, I said, you realize I was waiting for you outside? And I was speaking to you, just got up and walked away. Because they must understand. The other thing I did when I gave them money in their hand, they put it on the counter. I said, if I put money in your hand, put it in my hand. Don't ever do that. Don't think you come here and treat me as if the money you're giving to me, you cannot simply put it into my hand in a hand-to-hand exchange. Do not do that in Guyana. But we need more people who apparently can understand who we are as a people. And to be focusing on those of African descent who bowing to nonsense just because you want to be able to drive some car and you can boast in it, you have some fancy car, some house. We are worth more than that. Our history is worth more than that. And our pride as a people must be worth far more than that.
Our pride as a people must be worth far more than that. Good evening to all of you who are just joining us. Tonight, we are discussing the plight of our people. We started off tonight with Jimmy Cliff by the rivers of Babylon, where we sat down and where we wept when we remembered Zion. For the wicked carry us away captivity, require us to sing a song. But how can we sing the freedom song in a strange land? Some of us are doing something about it. I have decided to put all my political reputation on the line to deal with Black people's issues and black people's problems, because I recognize the crossroads that we are. Yes, we are not to be judged by the few, and I will never judge the many by the few.
Correct.
But if one of us behave in such obscene ways, it's a dagger to the heart of all of us, because that sister is our mother, our sister, our daughter. That brother is our father, our brother, our son, our nephew. I am not prepared to kick them away. I am prepared to help to stem the flow of others going in that direction. We are in a bad place. We are in a very bad place. And only we, as Apostle said here tonight, we are the ones who will have to correct what is happening. None but ourselves can free our minds. None but ourselves can free our minds. Ultimately, we have to take responsibility for what is happening in our community. And like Pastor said, Apostle said, I don't care who cuss me, who tell me I'm using profanity, who tell me this. It is a profanity that I'm trying to root out from among my people. It is profane to come into my community, to send my father, my son, to come and to buy my vote.
Yeah.
My vote. Tens of millions of my ancestors perished for me to get that vote. The vote for an African is different from the vote for a Caucasian.
Correct.
A Caucasian person got their vote as a gift. The African got the vote as a result of struggle, resistance, and punishment. It's a difference.
Difference.
Big difference. So when an African selling his vote, he's selling down the drain the lives of millions of his ancestors. When you sell that vote, you're selling the lives of millions of your ancestors. Others maybe can sell their vote and don't regret because they didn't have to fight for it. We Africans cannot do that. My brother, you know, it's always a pleasure to talk with you because I feel that I can be open and that somebody is not going to go tomorrow and condemn me. And when you go home to your children tonight and they ask you, Daddy, what did you do today? I condemn David Hinds. Your children should condemn you. Because David Hinds fought for you to have the right to speak in the first place. We are in a bad place, but we shall overcome. We must overcome because we have done so many, many, many times before. My brother, I know you've been following the budget.
Yes, I have.
Talk to me about that budget.
Dr. Hinds, here again, we have a situation in which Ashley Singh, who is not labeled as the Minister of Finance, according to what is presented to the cabinet, he bears this title of Senior Minister within the Office of the President with responsibility for finance, which is absolute garbage, filth, cesspool-worthy nonsense. Ashley Singh's title protects Ashley from being persecuted and prosecuted in relation to the Natural Resource Fund Act. And I'm saying that to begin this response. So here we have an atrocity to begin with, where someone who's not even labeled as, in reference to the portfolio, the Minister of Finance is being made to stand in the House of Assembly, to read to us a budget. And in any nation, there has to be a focus or a focal point in a budget. The focal point in this budget of 2025 mirrors that of 2024, which is not people-centered. In reference to the masses, it's centered on developing and advancing the economic benefits of the private sector, and to a much lesser extent, those who would want to be associated with things related to the PPP in general. Because in many cases, I remember when things are being, when the distributions being made in Region 10 especially, and Region 6, telephone calls are made ahead of time. And they say, meet us at Patuka Guest House, we're sharing out some money today. That is not, that text and so on doesn't come to everyone. And those who support the PPP can go to get these little grants, and then they will come to say, well, we've had grants given to small businesses. Not the case. Ashni Singh stood there and presented a 1.3 or something like $4 trillion budget. In this year, we expected to earn $2.5 billion US in the profit sharing, and 340 something million in 2.2 or so, and $340+ million in royalty. This administration will seek to withdraw all of it if possible. And they would have the gall to say that in spending over $500 billion from that, all of the money, it still would not offset, so there'll be a deficit. They would not do that which benefits the masses in Guyana. Permit me to say this. When we examine how people have to join lines and crowds and fight and to get $8,330 per month, that's what $100,000 amount to, when you divide it. It shows you that Guyana is not yet prepared by the PPP, or it would not have been prepared by APNFC, for us to enjoy the wealth that we have. It's a sad day in our country when a budget is read. We're now in approaching March, and for the second consecutive cycle, people cannot say that they have felt or are beginning to feel the benefits, the direct benefit of this. We have Pierre Manichan boasting that $50,000 per child is a major accomplishment in reference to this because we care nonsense. $4,000 per month and a little more. Priya would say, Guyana dollars, $20 US or a little more per month is enough for Guyanese to celebrate that the PPP is giving you something. That's how disgraceful this situation is. There is no intention to pull the Guyanese man in general out of a state or a plight of poverty. The PPP has no such intention. Because if they were to do that, then the caste system by which they function would no longer be relevant. So this budget is not geared towards advancing and truly developing Guyanese to making us what we ought to be economically. Pension in Trinidad still in many cases is over 100,000 Guyana dollars. And they want us to celebrate a pensioner having $35,000 or $40,000 if so much. In reference to NIS benefit, this is a disgrace. But what do we see? We see massive infrastructural work, because that is where the PPP friends, their cronies, their lackeys, and I say again, their butt lickers, have the greatest joy. And that is where you have the means of having the most corrupt system in our country now being manifested, to be manifested. This infrastructural business. There is a great atrocity in reference to this 2025 budget. The atrocity is that it is not geared towards the economic development of a Guyanese individual. It is not geared towards that. And there's no way that Ashley Singh or anybody in the House of Assembly can present that to me and say it's acceptable or it makes sense. It is not geared towards the economic development of a Guyanese man or woman. It is not. It is targeted. Again, I say that you have to look at the focal point of a budget. How do you arrive at these figures? And in what item or what category do you place the greatest focus for expenditure? It continues to be the category in which friends, families, favorites, and it's, in my case, to some extent, or we don't want to say that we blacklisting people, so we just give them a small portion of a contract and say we give in London a contract and people could talk about that nonsense as usual. No. What has to be in the minds of every Guyanese is the fact that if any political group or authority seeks to make you empowered economically, that would be the focal point of a budget. For example, remove taxation, this exorbitant, stupid taxation you have on certain vehicles. Let us all have a luxury. I would say that I do not understand how you can have parliamentarians, members of parliament, get mad at me all you want. You must enjoy tax-free or duty-free, as they call it, vehicles. But an ordinary teacher in the nursery school cannot have that, or secondary school. Why must we have that in our country? We can relax many areas of taxes to help Guyanese at least enjoy or have a sense of enjoyment. That is not happening on these people. Because if the PP were to empower Guyanese economically, I say again, they would no longer exist as a party. And they know that.
And they know that Apostle London here tonight, I think we had a little glitch there, but I think we're back on, and you're hearing us loud and clear. Apostle London, thank you so much for your insights tonight. As we come down to the end of the program, any special message for the audience here tonight?
Yes, thank you, David Hines. My message is that the audience, of course, your faithful viewers who are, I hope, would be in support of your stance. I have, in many circles, defended you vehemently when the attacks were leveled against you, because I would say that one of your caliber, taking a position as you did and putting so much on the line as you would have done, proves to all of us that you care more about the development and well-being of your people than you do about your position among your people. And that speaks volumes. I would like to announce to all that the height of intelligence that you would have attained should not permit anyone to seek to question or attack the utterances you make, because they're most often, or more often than not, maybe every time, well positioned, well placed, and also perfectly timed. Be strong, stand strong, and continue to defend the right of those who the United Nations would have said deserve that degree of defense. Viewers, do well until we meet again.
Until we meet again. Thank you very much, my brother, and thank you very much for those words of encouragement. And to you, the audience, as usual, love flows in a most profound way from me to you and from you to all of us. We come in peace again to do our thing, and we leave in peace. We continue to stand firm, because if we don't stand firm, then they're going to run us over. And we are determined that they will not run us over. Until tomorrow night, when I come again, be good and make sure that you remain true to the cause. The cause of justice is our cause, and our cause is a just cause. Until tomorrow night, same time, same place, another edition of Politics 101.